Hello, welcome back to Flurry Sports. Trevor lands in the middle, Luke Reimer on the right. I am Zach Bruner. Start to expect more fantasy football content on our YouTube channel here, or if you're not watching on YouTube, head over to YouTube and subscribe. During the season, Wednesday nights around this time, we are usually doing the rankings show and really diving deep into your fantasy football questions throughout the week. I think you could probably expect a Wednesday stream from us most Wednesdays than not the rest of the summer leading up. So if you want to join us around 7 p.m. Wednesday evenings to talk fantasy football, ask questions, dive through a few things I have planned, then I suggest you do so. But tonight we're talking about sleepers. And the way we are going to define sleepers is anyone with a current ADP in the 8th round or later in 12-team PPR leagues. I had these two write down some sleepers. I have some sleepers, but we're just going to jump into the quarterbacks. We'll go position by position. Quarterbacks, obviously not a ton of sleepers. I wouldn't call this person a sleeper, even though he is in the 8th round or later. I think we got to adjust the rounds a little bit. But like Tom Brady's getting selected in the late 8th rounds. He's not a sleeper. One person I think he is a sleeper just given his potential is Trey Lance. I know I'm higher on Trey Lance than everybody here. He's currently going 10th pick in the 9th round. So Trevor, and that would be, I should say, I'll get the full position while you're talking. I think it's around quarterback 14 to 16 is where he's going. But what do you think about getting that value for Trey Lance, or do you think that's about right?
I think that's about right, just because we haven't seen anything from him yet. Like, I'm not saying he can't do it. I think he's a really dynamic quarterback from what we've seen, and I think he can do great things. I mean, we saw Jalen Hurts last year. He had a noodle arm, and he still was one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the league. So he really doesn't have to do much. But again, not knowing exactly when he's going to play, that whole situation, obviously Debo's contract works into that. I think that's pretty fair. But I'm buying him there for sure.
I'm really interested to see because I think Jimmy Garoppolo has got a trade. He's searching for a trade now or whatever. I'm really interested to see how high Trey Lance shoots up after this, if any at all.
Mm-hmm.
But Trevor, you're right. In this kind of NFL, I mean, we've seen Jalen Hurts do it. We saw Lamar Jackson do it. I mean, we see Kyler Murray do it. You score points with your legs as a quarterback, and that really makes up for not throwing for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in a game. So I mean, you pick Trey Lance is an easy guy to pick up. Maybe 100 yards rushing, 50 to 100 yards rushing, and a touchdown. And when he's in, I don't know. I don't know if it changes if he's starting quarterback, but when he played, they ran plays designed for him. So Zach and Trevor, I'm both totally in on Trey Lance being a sleeper if you miss out on big guy in the 6th, 7th round, something like that.
Yeah, I'm obviously, like I said, I'm higher on Trey Lance than everybody else. Anyways, I'm biased. I'm not even going to pretend about that. I've been biased since I've seen him play. But yeah, 9th round, like I would be completely comfortable rolling into the season with him as my QB1. And by the way, I have yet to do my rankings. Those will be coming out soon. I think he's going to be top 10 for me. He's probably going to be 8 or 9. I would rather have him than Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather have him than Matthew Stafford. Way more than Derek Carr. Yeah. So I would love it. I hope he keeps his ADP down. But honestly, if you're a massive Trey Lance fan in fantasy this year and you're a commissioner, I would push to get a very early draft because I think Trey Lance is going to have so many highlights in the preseason where he's going to go up to an obnoxious level. I bet he's in the 5th, 6th round in 1 month. He's Patrick Mahomes with legs. That's all he is.
Drop the mic. So, I mean, I guess we'll kind of go along with
there he is.
Oh, he's back.
That's weird.
It's a good mic drop.
To carry on without you. It was a good mic drop, though, yeah.
Can you see me move right now or no?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. You're frozen for me, both of you, but I hear you, so it's all good. Yeah. Anyway, other quarterback, I would just say Deshaun Watson's an obvious quarterback. Sleeper if you're drafting right now. He's not going to get suspended for more than half of the season. So, yeah. Where's he going right now? He's currently going at the end of the 11th round. If you want to be risky at quarterback, quote unquote, like if you went Trey Lance in the 9th and Deshaun Watson in the 11th, that would be amazing in my opinion. What do you guys think?
I was just going to totally bring up, it feels like every year there's a kind of a stash guy and wait for the playoffs. I don't know how often that works out, but it feels like Deshaun Watson may be that may work out this year. So along your line, Zach, if you can get away with maybe stacking your first 8 picks for your team other than quarterbacks, and then grab Deshaun Watson, 11th, 12th round, wherever he's going, I think that's a huge win.
And that 13th week, which is kind of one of those weeks that leads up to the playoffs, or when it starts getting really down to the nitty gritty, he's playing at Houston. So Deshaun Watson revenge game against the Texans. That's pretty much going to be a guaranteed win unless the rest of your team is bad. He has some tough matchups, but again, with those legs, like we talked about earlier with other quarterbacks, it makes it a lot easier.
That's a 600-yard game, 600 total combined yards and 6 touchdown game from Deshaun Watson coming.
It's going to be like Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. The only other quarterback I really wrote down is, I mean, we talked about him last year a lot, I think. I like Daniel Jones quite a bit. I think he's going to be way better this year. And I say it just because he is going undrafted. Like, he's outside the top 27. And he's got legs. He's one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. And he has receivers everywhere. And now he's going to actually have some time. And he's gotten better every single year, too. So, I would much rather have him than Matt Ryan, who's at quarterback 20. He's a top 20 quarterback, in my opinion. Because anyone else below that, Baker Mayfield, Mitch Trubisky, Trevor Lawrence is iffy, but I think you should look at him. You guys answer if you have any other quarterbacks you like while I refresh, just hopefully see your guys' moving faces because it's kind of weirding me out.
The only other quarterback that came to my mind was Marcus Mariota with Atlanta. I mean, we don't know what he is. We haven't seen him start. I'm not saying that he should be your starting quarterback or anything, but he feels like the only player on that offense. So it feels like he somehow has to get points.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of gonna join on the bandwagon for Daniel Jones. Head over to FlurrySports.com or .org. Excuse me. We have our draft kit, and one of the parts that we have with that is our consistency rankings. Boom, bust, starter. And looking at Daniel Jones, he was a starter 27.3% of weeks. He only played 11 weeks, so smaller sample size. Still a starter more than Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, to Zach's point, Ryan Tannehill, who was quarterback 13. So, if he stays healthy and does have a little better team with him, he'll be fine. Especially like Zach said, if he's going undrafted, he's a guy that has to be drafted.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with him last year is he was injured and he didn't have an offensive line. Is one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen in my life last year, and they got 2 or 3 new starters on that O-line. It's gonna be a lot better. Let's move to running back. And Luke, I know you are interested in Mark Ingram, and obviously we still don't know what is going on with Alvin Kamara. Something I would assume is going to happen, and maybe they'll announce the news right alongside Deshaun Watson, so nobody even hears about it, since his situation is very more clear. But how do you value Mark Ingram, I guess, heading into the year?
Well, I mean, you kind of took it from me there, Zach. I was going to say, I mean, who knows what's going on with Alvin Kamara? I know it's a whole new, coaching regime in New Orleans. I don't know if that, Mark Ingram's played in New Orleans before. He's always been a touchdown vulture in his career, even with Alvin Kamara. New Orleans, it feels like they kind of have a revamped offense here. Don't really have, a solid 100% plan at quarterback. Feels like running backs could be needed to be relied on. I can totally see, Alvin Kamara getting 6-7 touches a drive and getting down to the goal line. And I don't know if anyone's done it better in their career than Mark Ingram at the goal line. So I know he's very, the only value you're getting out of him is touchdowns. He's going to be very touchdown dependent. But I think that's worth a shot if if he ends up being your 5th or 6th running back on your roster, even 4th if Alvin Kamara doesn't play. I mean, if Alvin Kamara, going back to early drafts, if you're doing an early draft now might be the time to grab Mark Ingram before a decision comes out.
And also, I mean, Mark Ingram kind of seems like this generation's Frank Gore. I mean, he just doesn't die. He's just always there, somehow somewhat relevant. He knows, he knows what's going on. He knows what to do. They know how to use him for sure in New Orleans. So he's got plenty of appeal this year.
And right now, again, 12-team PPR leagues, Ingram's going at 11.5. So basically around the same time people are starting to pick their defenses right now. Obviously, that'll go down a little bit because auto draft is pumping that up. But even still, rookies are going there. I think he's really good. When I talked about, I think I talked about it public. I know I did with you guys. The red zone rushing data. Alvin Kamara averaged 0.6 yards per carry in the red zone last year. So I think that's even more reason for Mark Ingram to maybe steal a couple touchdowns. That's, and they lost their left tackle. So it's the offensive line's worse. Way worse. I don't know. Trevor, you like a couple different running backs. Let's start with Marlon Mack, who seems way older than he actually is. He kind of snuck up on me for being, he's 26, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's
he's 35. There's no way. He's got Todd Gurley syndrome.
It's like Brandon Knight, who just turned 30 this year. How is that guy not 38 years old?
It feels like he was right along with Brandon Jennings, that era.
Right.
It
feels like DeAndre Jordan just dunked on him, not 10 years ago.
That's true. Anyway, Marlon Mack, Trevor. Where's Marlon Mack? Answer that question first.
He's with the Texans, so that's fun.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, he's got Davis Mills as his quarterback, who I think is a little underrated. I just wanted to shout out Davis Mills. I had really nothing else to go on there. But obviously, Marlon Mack in 2020 tore his ACL, I want to say, something in his knee, if I remember correctly. And then last year, obviously, Jonathan Taylor, he didn't get many touches. But, I mean, the 2 years before that, PPR running back 22 and 21 in back-to-back years, ran for just under 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns in those 2 years. The guy is more than capable. His offensive line obviously helped that a lot, clearly, since he played with Indianapolis. But, I mean, he's playing for Houston now, and Rex Burkhead is certainly going to take away touches and points like he always does wherever he goes. But outside of him, I mean, the only guy there is really Dameon Pierce. There's really no competition for Marlon Mack. He clearly still has it. He has something to prove. And to your point, Zach, he's 26 years old, and he's already shown he can do it already. So, I'm not saying he's a guy I want as my RB1, 2, maybe even depending on how you're looking, what your league is, maybe not even as a 3, but the appeal for how late he's going to me is just something where with the other guys that are going where he is, I take him 10 times out of 10.
Just so we correct ourselves, he tore his Achilles was that last injury. But yeah, to your point, I think the Texans, they showed this last year with their rookie receiver. It's not Kiki Cutie. That's the only name that's popping into my head. Nico Collins. Nico Collins.
Yeah.
Nico Collins.
They're gonna really, bring Dameon Pierce along. I'm gonna go out on a wild guess and say Lovie Smith is gonna stay traditional, and he's gonna let Marlon Mack get probably 65 to Dameon Pierce's 35% of the snaps early in the season. I think it's going to be 50-50 or even leaning towards the rookie at the end of the year. But, if you're running back even last until week 8, you should feel pretty proud. So, yeah, I like Marlon Mack as a early season player along the same lines as Mark Ingram. Obviously, Mark Ingram's going to be way more valuable in the early part of the season.
What is Marlon Mack ADP right now?
It is. What do you think it is?
10th, if I remember correctly.
It's pretty late. Marlon Mack, 10:08.
So you're getting a guy who's going to get majority of the touches in the 10th round. I mean, you're almost getting a starting running back in the 10th round. I know, in fantasy football, you should probably stay away from shitty teams, but I mean, starting running back is a starting running back.
Yeah. And one round after that's your pick, Mark Ingram, who's a starting running back at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
A couple rounds after that, player I really like a lot. Actually, never mind. That ADP is wrong. But Jamal Williams going 10th pick in the 11th round. I just tweeted it out a little bit ago, but Jamal Williams went in the 8th round last year, and I don't know what has changed other than the offense got better. The backfield's exactly the same. We know how they're going to use him and Swift, and the offensive line is one of the best in football. And then now Jared Goff might have a passing threat a little bit just because those receivers that they have are so good. And Hawkinson, obviously. Jamal Williams was a starter almost every single week for the Lions last year. We know he's going to have a 50-50 split with DeAndre Swift. So I don't know. What am I missing? Why is he 3 rounds later, Trevor? Let me know.
Real quick, if we reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the month, I will draft Ingram, Mack, and Jamal Williams, my only 3 running backs in one of my leagues. That seems like an interesting thing. But I don't know what you're missing. DeAndre Swift, obviously I wouldn't say injury bug is a concern for him. But, I mean, even when DeAndre Swift was cruising along, Jamal Williams clearly had a role. He clearly has a role as a pass catcher. They have a guy who can stretch the field deep now. They have Hawkinson who could go over the middle. So that should open up the screens, out routes, whatever it may be, to Jamal Williams now. Not that it wasn't open before, but even more. So to your point, I don't know what's being forgotten. I guess just because it's not the sexiest situation, but I'm taking him in the 11th round too. Again, that's defense round really, right?
Basically. Yeah, people are going to maybe take a chance on a second tight end there, or sometimes the first tight ends for some of these guys. But yeah, it's the rookie rounds. It's all that stuff. It's after Kelvin Ridley. So I like Jamal Williams more than Kelvin Ridley. I was just going to look up Jamal Williams' stats. I feel like he had a ridiculous... maybe not. But he still rushed for 600 yards last year. He rushed for the same amount of yards as Swift. And you talk about, Jamal Williams, he kind of keeps getting banged up, but I think last year was a concussion or something. It wasn't anything that you can really predict. Swift is injury prone. We know that. So Jamal Williams started 11 games last year, and I'm going to say he's going to start at least 11 again this year.
Yeah, I'd even throw Jamal Williams right up there with, the Kareem Hunts or the A.J. Dillons or the Tony Pollards of fantasy football.
Yeah, I think I would rather have him than A.J. Dillon if we're just talking about what their projected role is, not what would happen if they assumed an injury, obviously.
Right.
Yeah. Trevor, you had another running back. J.D. McKissick. What's up with J.D. McKissick? Is he still in the league too?
Yes. With another garbage football team, the Washington football team. I just really like McKissick because I think his role is pretty solid. I've seen a lot of hype around Gibson from cherry pick stats, and I just look at the running back, the rookie running back that they drafted, Brian Robinson. That's his first name, right? Brian. And I see him taking the goal line responsibilities from Gibson. I don't think that's really where McKissick thrived. And I look at McKissick too. I think he only played 11 games last year, and he still was running back 36. If he played a full slate of games, he would have been running back 20, 21. And just looking at all the stuff that he can do in the pass catching, I just, again, that late, somebody who's got a solidified role, it might not be a starter role, but it's solidified. I'm going to take that over, somebody like a Mike Davis or, those type of players.
Ron Rivera offense does like to use the running backs as pass catchers. We obviously saw that with Christian McCaffrey, I believe. But whatever. J.D. McKissic, he's always the guy that, you're looking around the league, like you want to make a trade like week 6 and you need a number 2 running back. And you're like, oh, maybe I can pry this guy away from my buddy. As J.D. McKissic's like, running back 20 on the year. With Carson Wentz coming to the team, I mean, he's going to have to grow into the system. He's going to have to figure it all out. I'm sure he's smart enough too. But it almost seems like, the easy pass, as we like to, there is, we talk about tight ends and dump offs to running backs. I mean, I don't know if many players are better in fantasy football than dump offs than Jerick McKinnon, maybe Nyheim Hines, but I do think that there's a passing role, like Trevor said, in this offense for J.D. McKissic.
Yeah, McKissic definitely needs to be talked about more often as one of the better receiving running backs in the NFL. He's really good. He just runs routes like a wide receiver. He's really good. I feel he's going in the 10th round, so that's pretty late. It's basically the same time as Marlon Mack. I personally would want Marlon Mack every time or over J.D. McKissic. Like, they like Antonio Gibson a lot. So Trevor, it doesn't matter if you like him, because
yes,
he's gonna get snaps, and this is interesting because, I mean, you disliked him last year, right? Along with me?
Gibson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated that guy.
Yeah, sorry. I hated him too, and then I watched some tape and I looked at some of his stats. Like, I don't hate him as much this year, but you're doubling down, so I do like to see that. I'm fine.
Dying on this hill.
I don't like 3-headed backfields, and I think that's what it's going to be. I think obviously they drafted the rookie for a reason. So again, he does not need your love. He does not need your acceptance. He just needs to win the love of Carson Wentz, because even Carson Wentz opted out of giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor. So I'm going to take a wild guess that he's okay with not giving it to Brian Robinson Jr. I don't even know where he went to school. Don't care. Other running backs.
This whole Washington running back situation would have been a lot easier if Darius Geis didn't get arrested.
Dude. Not Darius Geis got arrested. I wrote this big, good article about it's Samaje Perine's time. Mm-hmm. And then he snapped his ankle immediately upon me hitting publish. It wasn't 24 hours. It was immediately I got hit in the face with like one of those jackass hands. It sucked. I stand by that article. I'm just gonna throw a couple names out there just because I think they're interesting. I like the rookie Rashad White in Tampa. That's interesting because he's a good player. Trey Sermon, he's going in the 13th round, running back 58. I don't like him. I don't necessarily believe Kyle Shanahan likes him, but he was a 2nd-round player last year for the 49ers, I believe. They have to use him, right?
You think so? That's what I thought about every running back they've ever had.
True. I still feel like Raheem Mostert's going to start really well for the 49ers, and he's not even there.
Right.
I would place a bet on that. He's going to score a touchdown week 1 for the 49ers.
I can just see him ripping off a 60-yard run right now.
Yeah, and then you pick him up, and then he's done for the year. He's not going to help you.
What is that San Francisco backfield looking like?
Elijah Mitchell won. They drafted another running back, if you can believe it. 49ers depth chart.
They want to be Miami really bad.
Yeah, Shanahan just wants to be Mike McDaniel.
So if we're really talking, so San Francisco is just an upgraded version of Miami.
Yeah, way upgraded, but yes. So it's Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., who, by the way, don't know what he looks like. He feels like he's 35. That's a very old name. The rookies Tyrion Davis Price, then Trace Sermon's listed 4, and Jermichael Hasty's there.
Mhm.
You still got Juice at fullback. Fucking Jason Poe is there. Watch out. He might eat somebody this summer. He's gonna be so good there. So yeah, there's what do they have him listed as? Left guard. No.
He's gonna be H-back soon enough.
They can't list him as athlete in the NFL. That's why.
Fair enough.
So, I'm sorry. I just want to talk on 49ers running back here real quick. I think other than Elijah Mitchell, I don't want any of them, right?
No.
I mean, and of course, you're not going to reach for Elijah Mitchell. He's probably not a guy that's number 1 on your priority list. And I think a lot of that factors into, like you said, Zach, Juice is still there, that they run plays for their fullback. And also Deebo Samuel, I mean, who has more rushing touchdowns than receiving touchdowns in his career. I don't know if that's another role for him, or if what his whole situation is going on. But it just feels like someone who's 4th in running backs and probably 6th in rushing options right now does not feel like a guy that it almost feels like a wasted pick to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't want to mess with that running back room, or like the Rams. I question it. I'm looking at Sean McVay. I see Cam Akers and I don't trust it. Randy, thank you for joining us already. Is Zack Wilson a good fantasy football sleeper? While you were talking, Luke, I was thinking of a joke.
He's a good
Didn't
sleeper.
come to me. I know, that's what I'm like. There's something there with he's good in the bed, but he ain't sleeping. I don't know. I'm not sure. I like Zack Wilson. Like I don't. Is he a top 25 quarterback? Just in reality.
I don't
Probably
think so.
not.
Yeah. So like, I think he's capped because he's not good. But like, there's a lot of really good weapons around there. I think they're going to do some really easy things. I think they're going to essentially treat him like Cleveland treated Baker Mayfield, in that it's going to be a lot of short to intermediate routes with a lot of play action, which should be theoretically easy unless you're Baker Mayfield. So I think he has top 20 potential. I don't think he has top 12 potential. I'd be cool with taking him as my second quarterback in a 2 QB league. I have that trust.
I hated Zack Wilson going into the year. Now I only hate him for fantasy.
There you go. He's done well.
He's
fine.
just
The menace.
He's just not. I did see a stat. I think he had the lowest. I don't know how it was correct. I would have assumed Rogers was at the top, like
Standards?
lowest turnover.
Oh,
Yeah, at that. But lowest turnover percentage, like in the red zone or whatever. I don't know how cherry picked that stat was. But I mean, he's
0
got
for
weapons.
0?
So
they didn't make it to the red zone. Mike, where's Mike White? That's a question. 1 second.
If we're basing like quarterbacks off of one game of play, Mike White may be the greatest of all time.
Matt Flynn. Don't forget Matt Flynn.
Yeah.
Set the Packers record for passing yards and just bounced and did nothing.
He's
still with the Jets, so that's a question mark. Because
I read an article that someone thought that the Jets should trade Mike White and sign Kurt Benkert to a long-term deal as their backup quarterback.
I don't know. Mike White might be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Like the
That was the weirdest game too. Didn't they throw in Josh Johnson for like a quarter too?
Oh, threw to everybody, but it was not one game. He had like 6 quarters of excellence.
It was like comparable to the week of great basketball Jeremy Lin had.
Dude, that was insane. Let's see. So the good game was 405 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He started the next game. I think he got hurt.
Yes.
Okay, and then the game after that, he went for 250, which is pretty good, but he threw 4 interceptions and no touchdowns. Oh, I do remember this was that game against the Colts that he got hurt. He did all that in the first drive, basically.
Yeah.
He looked insane. He was unbelievable. He could be good. the Jets need to sign Joe Flacco as their third. And I think he can make Mike White what we need him to be.
I'm pretty sure that Jets-Colts game, like every NFL fan looks at it like a fever dream. Like everybody's like, did that game really happen or did it not? Because that was maybe the oddest. That was Thursday night too, I think. Which
Yes, it was.
It's the only night it could have been played for a game of that stature. But
also was an odd game was Jaguars beat the Bills 9-6 last year.
yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. And I picked the Bills in my Survivor League. Thanks, Josh Allen, you jackass, to both of them.
Just to touch on Wilson here real quick. Like you said, Zach, the Jets have pieces around him on that offense. I mean, I think I'm in the minority, but I believe that I don't necessarily know that Jets are a bottom feeder team right now. Their over/under is set at 5.5 wins. I think they hit that over, to be honest. I think they scrape together, a couple wins in a row, and then they fall into some lucky wins. I don't know what that means for Zack Williams or Zack Wilson's fantasy, but with the pieces around him, it's the Jets are definitely on a little bit of a come up, I'd say, or they're moving in the right direction.
Zack Wilson, I don't have his stats here, but like his last 3 or 4 games, he completely turned it around. He actually looked pretty good. He learned everything he knows from Mike White, because that was after those games. And so I think he's actually pretty good. He's around 18 to 22, I would say, which is fine. Also, if you haven't seen our new Zack Wilson video on our YouTube channel, go and watch that. That's a clip from the latest FlurrySports podcast, which revealed some interesting things about Zack Wilson, and not for the reasons you think. He's weirdo, if you can believe it. Someone from BYU is odd. Let's go tight ends here now, and then we will end with wide receivers. Did either of you have a tight? Oh, no, you didn't. Okay, so tight ends, obviously there's the top tier, which is 3-4 players, depending on who you ask. Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts. I think the tier after is, Mark Andrews, people are putting up there too. Mark Andrews and George Kittle, kind of. Darren Waller, kind of. And then there's a big tier after that, which is basically everybody else, which creates a lot of opportunity for us. 1 second while this loads, just to see how many players are going. Only 9 tight ends are getting taken earlier than the 8th round. And the last of that line is Dawson Knox, who I don't think should be taken that high. Luke, do you want to speak on that? Yeah, because you just had that article talking about him, right? Or was that Trevor?
Yeah, on Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
Zach, we talked about it a little bit, but the Bills have just revamped their offense, without getting rid of Stephon Diggs or Gabriel Davis. But, bringing guys like Jameson Crowder, Khalil Shakir, and James Cook. It seems like the Bills are trying to revamp their offense while still staying a Super Bowl contender, which is kind of, I don't want to say easy, but it's possible because Josh Allen does so much by himself. And right there, they added 3 new players to their offense. That's way too many mouths to feed for Dawson Knox, who really was the red zone guy last year. He had 9 touchdowns. I think exactly it was close to 1/3 of his catches were touchdowns. Especially with how mobile Josh Allen is in the red zone. I think when the red zone comes, Dawson Knox is not the first look in my mind. He's maybe not even the second or third look. I think people are just going to go off of that. The Bills are good, and he had a good end of the year last year. But I think that's stupid, especially there's guys around him that probably could help your team more than an average at best tight end. Zach, I think you related him to Robert Tonyan from 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 1/3 of his fantasy points came solely from touchdowns.
Yep.
And not even the catch, just the 6 points for the touchdown. His last year is very similar to Tonyan year before, because Tonyan had 11 touchdowns the year before. He was just floated because of that, and we talked about on many shows how he was literally doing jumping jacks 40 yards downfield because people didn't cover him. And no one covered Dawson Knox last year because I think it was his third year in the NFL, and he did jack shit up to that point. This year, now people know he's actually a threat. They also have a lot more receivers, and OJ Howard is there.
And OJ Howard.
I mean, he should be better than what he's done in the NFL at this point, right?
Yeah.
So, I think he's going to take something from him.
Yeah, I think I talked about him. His role in the NFL is not a blocker; it's a receiver. And I think Dawson Knox kind of fits that role of blocking better, especially on a run, not necessarily run heavy, but a quarterback run heavy team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Dawson Knox is really just the first weeks 2 through 5 was really good. Outside of those weeks, he had 4 touchdowns on the year, and even in weeks 2 through 5, in 2 of those games, if he doesn't catch the touchdown, he's not even breaking double digits, really not even close. So he's really touchdown dependent. To your point, team got better. They're going to be covering him, and it just seems like recency bias is a hell of a thing. We're seeing it with Gabriel Davis after having one great game in the playoffs after doing really nothing the entire season. With all this time off, people kind of play up how good people really are, how high their value really is. And Dawson Knox is just another example of people playing him up.
Wide receiver or tight ends who I do think are good sleepers. Mike Oseki, I think, is at the beginning of the 10th round. Like, I think there's a lot better value still at the tight end position, but I think he's better than Dawson Knox, who is going 2.5 rounds earlier. I think he's on par with Dallas Goedert and Dalton Schultz. I think he's right around there for me because the entire offense gets better in Miami. So theoretically, he should be in scoring position more often. He should be fine. It's not like Tyreek Hill is taking anything away from him, in my opinion. And obviously, Mike McDaniel, look at every offense he's come from. Obviously, he's learned everything from Shanahan, who uses the tight end. So you should be fine. Other names, Cole Kmet in Chicago. I like him. He's a good talent. We'll see how that offense looks, but mid-12th round is too late. And then right after him, Robert Tunyon's mid-13th round. And if we remember going into last season, the whole thing with Tonyan was he's been learning the entire playbook. He's expanding his route tree. He's going to have such a pivotal position on the Packers, and he got hurt right away. I think people were overvaluing him last year, but 13th round's way too low. Obviously, people are concerned about the injury. I think there's a decent chance he's ready week 1 or in September, I should say. So I think he is just as reliable as Noah Fant, Cameron Brate, Hayden Hurst, Zach Ertz even. Like, I like him. I don't know.
Yeah, he's probably number 2 or 3 pass catcher in the Packers offense, which is pretty good to see when you have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and grab him that late in a fantasy draft.
And then just wait till Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb go down in week 4, and then he'll be even more valuable.
I don't think you guys get it. We got Amari Rogers. He went to Clemson.
I can't wait. Look, I'm gonna get so much crap for this. I cannot wait for Amari Rogers to crash and burn. I have nothing against Amari Rogers, but all the people hype him up. Know your place, all right? Because this dude, I have nothing against the guy, just his fans, man. Get a room, get a life. I don't know.
He does have a lot of fans.
Touch grass.
Yeah, take that. Other ones like Cameron Brate, I just kind of shit on him a little bit, but like he's the starting tight end for Tampa until Gronk comes home. But it doesn't sound like Gronk's going to be here for the first couple months. So if you can get him in the 13th, 14th round, I would definitely pull the trigger on that. Hayden Hurst is the starting tight end for the Bengals. He has an obvious role. He's going 14th round. Gerald Everett is the starter for the Chargers. He's going 14th round. That's a great pick. Irv Smith Jr. for the Vikings was great last year until he got hurt. He's going to have a big role. He's in the 14th round. Albert O, 14th round for the Broncos. He's an absolute fucking stud. And he's a top 12 tight end. And he's free right now. So hope he doesn't play in the preseason because he's going to impress a lot of people.
All those guys just spouted off are, if you miss out on a Kelsey or an Andrews or, like a Pitts,
Yes.
I don't think there's any point in trying to reach for another big name guy when, you can get those guys with almost your last pick in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no reason to take Dawson Knox in the 7th or 8th, Pat Fryer move in the 9th when literally you could go with your last 2 picks right now or, 2 picks in a row late in the draft going Irv Smith Jr. and Gerald Everett or Hayden Hurst or somebody like that. It makes too much sense right now.
This year, obviously we'll talk about it a little more, but the middle, the odd rounds, it seems like the rounds of the wide receivers. I mean, running backs, we talked about, there's not a whole lot there except for some guys late, obviously, but tight ends, the Dawson Knox where they're going, it seems like kind of a gray area. It's a weird, I don't know, at least where the ADPs are now, it just seems like a weird year for the middle late of the draft.
It's weird and it's kind of predictable right now. Obviously, we're super early and things are going to settle into their actual places, but it's so obvious to see how you draft the best team right now. Like you got to go running back early, figure out your tight end and quarterback somewhere there. And then there's such a huge section of wide receivers, which we'll get into right now, where it's like, as long as you have one stud, there's 55 to 60 players who could finish top 30, which we never have had before.
And just to touch on that real quick, Trevor, you kind of said, getting a stud running back is kind of limited right now. Wide receivers, and Zach just touched on that. The 2 wide receivers who, other than, I guess, Cooper Kupp you could throw in there, but the two big ones, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, they're on completely new teams that I don't even know if they should be drafted in the first round,
Right.
Let alone early second round. So it's going to be running back heavy to start, I'm sure, every single draft. But there is a lot of money to be made on late tight ends and middle to late receivers this year.
Well, I know, Zach, we talked a little bit about this offline, this guy. And obviously this ranking is on Sleeper for the ADP of Warrior Bowl, so different scoring rankings. But Adam Thielen is 106. That's pretty much all you need to know. Like, he's there with James Cook, Chase Edmonds, and Miami. I mean, that's the ADP at that place. So if you have any idea where to take a wide receiver, if you're a little thin, it's fine to be thin at wide receiver. Like you said, Zach, to your point, what you said was, I don't think you need to take one in the first 7 rounds.
You really don't. But let's get into the sleepers here because it's sleepers, but it's also just really good value is all this segment's going to be. Trevor, you can start with, am I gone?
We lost your picture. Oh, there you are.
What the fuck's going on? Okay, Trevor, you can start with Rashad Bateman, second-year receiver for Baltimore.
Yeah, I know me and Zach, you and I really liked him. I think, Luke, you liked him too. I don't remember for sure. We liked him coming out of college. I thought he was an absolute stud. And he was tied for a wide receiver 69 last year. He only played 11 games. Nice. He would have been, I think, top 40 if you take his average over 16 games. But Marquis Brown is gone. Like, I don't know why he's ranked so late. This is the guy. Who else? I mean, the wide receiver 2, 3 in Baltimore is Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, Benjamin Victor, Jalen Moore, Tylan Wallace. Like, he's going to be the guy. Obviously, they have Mark Andrews. He's the tight end. He's going to be a big guy. J.K. Dobbins. That backfield's going to take some receptions. But out of the wide receivers in Baltimore, here's the clear-cut one. And so for him going as late as he is, it just seems like an absolute steal.
Yeah, especially, bigger guy. I think Lamar Jackson's shown he likes to throw to bigger guys more than, maybe a Marquise Brown type. And like if the Ravens were throwing the ball, first look at Mark Andrews. If not, I can't imagine it's going to anyone other than Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, I think he should be a possession monster in just reality this year. Like he should be seeing 160 targets in reality. I think he's capped by the offense
For
because
sure.
Marquis Brown had a third of the target share last year, and he was still not that high. So we're asking Rashad Bateman to get a third of the targets, which I think he can do. I don't even think that's a unrealistic ask. I think he's going to be more efficient than Marquise Brown. We'll see about touchdowns because I don't know how many monster plays are going to go to Rashad Bateman. So then you're asking Lamar Jackson to pass to him in the red zone. And, that's a flip of the coin.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because, Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman probably have incredibly different roles in an offense like that.
Mm-hmm.
Does it benefit Lamar Jackson? I would imagine another big-bodied receiver helps Lamar Jackson a lot.
Yeah, for baseline information, obviously, again, his role is going to be different than Marquise Brown, but Marquise Brown was wide receiver 17. Mm-hmm. I think his ADP is in the 9th, I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly. So 9th round, 807. Okay, so late
Almost
8th round. Yeah, I mean, even if he's not a wide receiver 17, if he's just a top 30 wide receiver, it's really all you need from him.
You're turning a profit.
Mm-hmm. And I would assume T.Y. Hilton will be going there to play the Marquise Brown role. He's going to be that field stretcher most likely. He's not going to see the targets, obviously. But Rashad Bateman needs somebody to draw the defense away from him. So they need some deep threat speed guy. And T.Y. Hilton is someone who already almost signed there last year, and he's more than likely going to sign there this year. So watch that. If not him, then probably Julio, which, it is what it is. Luke, Tim Patrick. Do you like him? Haven't heard
Love
this
him.
before.
All he does. But really, in Tim Patrick's last 2 years, I think he has 11 touchdowns. That's being a wide receiver 3, probably almost even a 5th option on the offense, maybe even 6 at some time. So, 11, it's not over 2 years. It's not great, but he scores touchdowns with Drew Lock throwing him the ball. Imagine with Russell Wilson throwing him the ball. I know I've criticized Russell Wilson a lot, but he's much better than Drew Lock. I actually think that Cortland Sutton's the guy in this Broncos offense. But if Tim Patrick, I think he had 5 last year. If he's getting 5 as a wide receiver with Drew Lock throwing him the ball, I would imagine, of course, you're not going to replicate the same exact thing. But I think Tim Patrick sees, there's an opportunity for him to see 8 touchdowns this year.
Go on.
Go ahead. I'm going to look up stats for a player who I'm going to compare him to.
PPR wise, he's been 42 and 44 the past 2 years. He got 85 and 79 targets, but only got 53 and 51 receptions because, again, that Drew Lock effect. And he was still able to put up, 700 plus yards both those years. To your point, Luke, he had 5 and 6 touchdowns those 2 years. So obviously they got some talent at wide receiver, but clearly the targets are there for him. And now you have Russell Wilson. Those targets are going to turn into more receptions. You'd have to believe a few more touchdowns. He's not going to be a wide receiver 10 this year, but again, for where you're drafting him, that's a steal. For just what he's been the past 2 years, it seems like a steal. So seeing the only way he can go is really up. I absolutely love him.
Tim Patrick this year to me is 2015 Jermaine Kearse with Russell Wilson in Seattle there. And that season, it was 49 receptions, 685 yards, 5 touchdowns. That feels like a Tim Patrick stat line this year, which is totally good at that ADP. Do you want him as your wide receiver 1 or 2? Probably not. Mm-hmm. If you get him as wide receiver 3, could do a little better. If he's your 4th, sure. He's going to be reliable, and he's not going to lose his role ever. But if one of the first 2 guys ahead of him, Judy or Sutton, get hurt, his role is only going to grow. I think he's, great pick. And another guy, Trevor, if you didn't know that Luke likes, is Van Jefferson. Tell us about Van Jefferson.
Basically the same exact reasoning as I just had with him excelling in that wide receiver 3 spot. But I think Van Jefferson does more damage at the beginning of the year this year, before Odell Beckham inevitably signs back with the Rams. Obviously with Allen Robinson there. I would imagine he starts as wide receiver 2. But at the end of the year, I would imagine that Van Jefferson probably helped to win some championships last year, because him and Odell Beckham really turned it on at the end of the year. You could tell there's a connection starting with Matt Stafford. I don't see why that connection goes from the wayside. But it's just kind of that same idea that, it almost feels like his role is kind of cemented based off of what he did last year in that wide receiver 3 spot. He's had experience there, and, just another guy who maybe you're not totally comfortable but with him being your wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4, but you could do much worse than that in that round.
Yeah, I think the only thing wrong, quote unquote, with him is he just feels like a guy you don't want to rely on.
Right.
Like you hear the name Van Jefferson, you think of Deshaun Jackson on the Buccaneers, when if he doesn't catch a 60-yard touchdown, he's a bust. But last year he was wide receiver 36 PPR, 31 if you don't play PPR. They lost Woods. They gained Allen Robinson. I was an Allen Robinson fan. Is that really going to change all that much in LA? I don't think so. So again, at that ADP, it just seems like the general consensus doesn't like him, and that draws him down for no reason other than personal feelings towards him.
Yeah, I think Deshaun Jackson's a pretty good comparison. If you go to FlurrySports.org, the boom bust rankings, we have a video on YouTube here going over them. In the scoring I chose, and obviously I didn't include week 18, he was wide receiver 34 in PPR. He was never a boom, so he was never top 6 at his position. He was deemed start worthy, which for wide receiver is in the top 30, 37.5% of the time. He was a bust, which is outside the top 48, 44% of the time. So he's the definition of boom bust, but he's going to have those big weeks. If you play in a best ball league, I like him a lot, because he's just going to continue to be left alone when the Rams are in full, strength and drawing up teams to get sucked in. He just escapes out the back essentially. So yeah, I think Van Jefferson's good. He's currently going. Where is he going?
13.
Van Jefferson. Where is he? Oh, 14th round. Yeah. 62 out of all wide receivers, which is crazy. Who's that after who I hate? Find somebody. Well, Kelvin Ridley. It's going after, though, Jacoby Myers. That's stupid. It's going after Christian Watson. That's stupid. Traylon Burks. Whatever.
Hey, you never know. Jacoby Myers might start to catch some touchdowns now. You never know.
Nah.
I thought of a good name for the Matt Stafford Van Jefferson touchdown connection.
What's that?
Florida Georgia line. How has nobody thought of that?
There's no way you're the first one, right?
Right. It seems so simple.
Make some t-shirts. Put them up at my sportshirt.com real quick.
That has to be a thing, right?
It's pretty. I swear to God, I've never heard
I don't know if it is.
That's very good. I
don't think enough people care about Van Jefferson.
I think we need to monetize that.
Intellectual property, if you heard it here. We have it on video. It's on the internet. And it will be on my sportshirt.com probably. We'll see if I forget, but I hope not. Luke, remind. We'll figure it out.
Randy's got our back.
Randy always does. Let's go. Other wide receivers. I'm just going to start at round 8 and scroll down because there's a lot. I'll start with Cordero Patterson. He's considered a wide receiver here. If that's true, how many times does Cordero Patterson have to warn you? Stop doubting him. He's the greatest player I've ever seen, I think. I don't know.
I'd be really interested to see how many times Cordero Patterson has actually lined up as an outside receiver in the last couple of years.
Dude, he's playing quarterback this year. There's no way.
They
Like
should put him at tight end in a dual set with Kyle Pitts. I just want to see that too.
Cordero Patterson could do anything. He might be a middle linebacker this year, and he's going to be the best one. And we're going to keep doubting him, be like, he's more of just a kick returner. It's like, no, he can do everything. He is Taysom Hill to Sean Payton.
If you really think about it, he's just a somewhat smaller Jason Poe.
I think he might be a half a foot taller, but he is a lot slimmer. Good point. Cordero Patterson. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going in the 8th. Rashad Bateman, we talked about. But Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk's going in the mid-10th. He's going as wide receiver 45. They just paid him so much money. Like, he is the go-to target there. Let's not even pretend. He has to be.
Especially with a developing quarterback in a Doug Peterson system.
Yeah, he's going to be, top 30, I would say. And he's going as wide receiver 45. Alan Lazard is going at the end of the 10th round. We've talked about it on Lombardi Sweep. We'll talk about it more, I'm sure, soon. He's going to be a touchdown monster, I think. I don't think like his yards or receptions are going to blow you away, but like I think he's a double-digit touchdown guy.
He kind of reminds me of that James Jones role when he came back, and didn't he like lead the league in touchdowns? But like not much. I hate making that comparison because James Jones will always be like one of the GOATs, and I don't want to put Lazard up there, but that's just what it kind of seems like.
Honestly, yeah. There's going to be a lot of scramble drills in the red zone, and he's going to be the guy. It's going to be him or Tanyan. It's not going to be Watson or not even Randall Cobb. He doesn't do that.
Lazard is going to be awesome for a touchdown-only league.
Yes. Him, Tim Patrick, and...
Except watch out, Amari Rogers might take some of those targets, with that giant frame in the red zone. he might make some moves.
Amari Rogers runs a sub 440 and has the chest of the Rock. He is the greatest athlete I've ever seen in my life. I talked to so many Amari Rogers fans who told me so. He's so good.
The only caveat is he's the best athlete under 5'10", that is over like a certain amount of weight. Like, if you add enough, stipulations, I'm sure he is. But
you know what that reminds me of? Randall Cobb.
Yep. Shout out Ben Fennell. You jackass.
So Zach, I know that we talked about him. I'll just go real quick here. I know that me and you talked to him, but is Amari Rogers better than Tavon Austin?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think he is.
I don't think
so. At least
so
Tavon
either.
Austin survived a bullet, right? I mean, that's something. Wasn't that Tavon Austin? Or was that somebody else?
Did he run faster than it?
You're thinking of 50 Cent.
Common misconception was not Amari Rogers.
Or was it? No, Stedman Bailey, I think. Is he the one? Got shot? I don't know.
Yes,
Somebody got shot.
it's Stedman Bailey.
And if it was Tavon Austin, then if you get shot and come back to the field, you're a GOAT.
You know what happened? They actually did shoot at Tavon Austin, but he outran the bullet.
Amari Rogers tried to catch it and still dropped it.
True. I know, Luke, you like Marquez valdes-scantling in the mid 13th round.
I just think it'd be so fucking funny if he led the NFL in receiving yards. That'd be so fucking funny.
He would have called it too.
Oh no, that could happen. What if he's just Tyreek Hill but taller?
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Those are my nightmares, Zach.
He's going to catch the ball now too. Everybody talks about he wasn't that good.
Yeah,
we were talking about all last year, from week one that there's a reason Rodgers tries to go to him early. There's a reason, and Patrick Mahomes is going to go to him.
But really, on this Kansas City offense, I mean, there's not many more game breakers in the NFL than Tyreek Hill. That's a huge role to fill in an offense. I would imagine that Marquez valdes-scantling at least gets the first opportunity to appear in that role that we saw Tyreek. Now, obviously, Marquez valdes-scantling isn't Tyreek Hill or anything, but I mean, there's a role that needs to be in this offense. We saw them win a Super Bowl on it, and it seems to me Marquez valdes-scantling fits that role.
Yeah, I think this is sort of a role by committee type of thing, if you want to call it that. I could see Mecole Hardman doing a lot of the backfield stuff, doing the jet sweep stuff from scrimmage. And then I think MVS is going to do the stuff downfield. And then Juju is going to kind of work the middle of the field alongside Kelsey and stuff. So, and then Skye Moore, I don't know. He might coach. I don't know what Skye Moore is going to do. So their receiving core is so weird. It's so weird. But yeah, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, honestly, could catch 200 yards this year. Could lead the league. That's the kind of motherfucker we're dealing with here.
Where is his ADP?
He is mid 13th round, 57th wide receiver.
So you're taking a boom bust in the 13th round. I think you're going to do that every single time.
And honestly, Mecole Hardman's 2 picks after him. Take them both.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen.
I was going to say, is he even really that much of a bust? Like, he's got to throw to somebody. And I feel like out of everybody, he's, their first priority on defense is probably going to be Kelsey and then maybe Juju. I mean, maybe not. But if that's the case and MVS on the third guy with Patrick Mahomes' arm, that's problematic, especially in the AFC West.
No one is talking about the Chiefs as like contenders.
I know.
And don't let them get away with it.
This is like the damn Warriors, isn't it? This past year. They're just going to come out here and win the whole damn thing, aren't they?
Yep. I'm not about it.
Should we just predict the Super Bowl while we're here? I mean, we already got one of the teams.
I think we just did. It's going to be them versus Brady. Ooh, how did we predict it? Crazy. After a crazy year with all these quarterback switching teams, that's what we're going to get.
That Kansas City Buffalo playoff game for the third year in a row is going to be great this year.
True. Can't believe that they lost in that way in overtime, and then they cried about it. Next sleeper.
Congrats, Kansas City, on winning the 2022 Super Bowl.
Who? I didn't even see Skye Moore has a ADP of right ahead of Valdes-Scantling. So Moore, MVS, and Hardman are wide receiver 56, 57, and 59 right now. Which one out of those 3 would you rather draft, Luke?
MVS.
Yeah, sure,
Luke.
MVS. I would rather take MVS.
I think so too.
The only thing that is in my brain with that is Mecole Hardman's obviously had time in this offense. And maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but the connection between Green Bay and Kansas City is the scramble drill. I mean, they both execute it well. I don't know if that helps Marquez Valdes-Scantling at all in this offense. But other than, the role that I pointed out before, I do think Marquez Valdes-Scantling sees a little bit more.
Agreed. Wide receiver 58. So between MVS and Mecole Hardman is DJ Chark. So end of the 13th round. He is the number 1 in Detroit. Dan Campbell is the greatest specimen I've ever seen in my life. Jared Goff sucks, but it does not matter. DJ Chark I think he had 1,000 yards with Gardner Minshew. He was really close to it.
Mm-hmm.
If Goff can't do what Gardner Minshew, dude, trade Gardner Minshew there during Hard Knocks. That would be the greatest episode of all time.
Honestly, Gardner Minshew and what's his name, Dan Campbell, that would be like the NFL version of Step Brothers, except they would love each other the whole time. Dan
Campbell would be wearing jeans, realize it, cut him into jorts to meet him at the airport, and it would be the greatest scene in Hard Knocks history. And he would cut him with like a hunting knife or a hatchet. Yeah. It wouldn't be his scissors. It's his buck knife for sure. 100%. He always has his buck knife on him.
They would be competition. Dan Campbell drink coffee, Gardner Minshew drink Monster. We can get him down quicker.
Dude. It would be a full beverage relay, and then it'd end with like whatever Budweiser, whatever Gardner Minshew sponsored by.
If Gardner Minshew ever makes his way to the Lions, there's no reason that every practice does not end with Dan Campbell and Gardner Minshew doing Oklahoma drills against each other.
Yes. Winner shotguns a beer over top of them.
Yeah.
Every time. Man. Okay. Got to move on. Alec Pierce is wide receiver 60, rookie in Indianapolis. At worst, he's the wide receiver 2. At best, he's the wide receiver 1 for a Matt Ryan offense. Is there going to be a ton of targets? Probably not. Alec Pierce is an every down player. He's really good. he's a top 45 player at the very least, so he's a good value there. Kenny Goliday, wide receiver 64, going in the 14th round. He had a lot of targets last year. He played perfectly fine. Daniel Jones was horizontal for most of his passes that he threw to him. So I think he has the most to gain this year, like out of any wide receiver. If you told me he finished top 30, that wouldn't surprise me. You know, I'm not saying he's a top 12 guy, but like he could have a 800-yard, 7 touchdown season.
And I know that he's, an injury or two removed, but we saw what he can do at his best. I mean, he was one of the better receivers in the league. What was that, it must have been 3-4 years ago now. I'm not saying that he's that player anymore, but I mean, he's not a bad player by any means.
He's not old.
Right.
Yeah, he was like a mid-4th round pick. Obviously, a lot of guys have been mid-4th round picks, but Evan Ingram's gone too. Granted, he was always on the sidelines anyways, but like you said, Zach, better offensive line, only can go up.
Way better offense. Jason Garrett was their offensive coordinator last year. Like, it's going to be night and day. Garrett Wilson's right after him. I don't know if he's a sleeper or not, but I think that's a name that interests me. Jahan Dotson, a few after, is also interesting. Jameson Williams in Detroit's interesting because I think he might be the best like real life player out of all of the rookie wide receivers, assuming he's healthy. Robbie Anderson is wide receiver 72. Don't let him fool you. Like he's going to be he's going to be a top 30 wide receiver this year, and then next year he's going to be bad again.
Nobody's more pissed off about Baker Mayfield going to the Panthers than Robbie Anderson.
True. That is true.
The thing is, if Sam Darnold, I think we talked about this last year. If Sam Darnold plays, I mean, they have a connection in New York and in Carolina now.
Do they? Like, I don't know. Like, Darnold played a decent amount last year. Anderson was bad last year.
I guess, yeah.
They just didn't throw it to him. I don't know why. It was
Carolina was a shit show last year.
Yeah, it was.
Carolina's been a shit show for a lot of years.
Ever since that Super Bowl.
Remember when they signed Cam Newton back and it was the greatest thing of all time? And then he played quarterback? They're like, oh my God, can we cut him? I'm not sure if it's possible. I don't think I have any other wide receivers. Do you guys?
No.
But like we named a lot and we're talking about 8th round or later. If you just go up to round 5 or 6 and later, like you're fine taking a wide receiver 1 in the 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
That would be DJ Moore, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, Mike Williams. Amari Cooper, by the way, his ADP is going to go up as soon as the Deshaun Watson punishment is announced. So that's another guy you could buy low on. But yeah, like
I
a lot
think
of guys.
Yeah, if you're not targeting like a Travis Kelce or a Kyle Pitts or even a Mark Andrews, I think that your first 3 picks should probably be running backs in your fantasy football draft.
I always like going running back early, and I think this year even more than ever. Like, because let's say you go Justin Jefferson or Devontae Adams in the 1st or the 2nd, and they get hurt. I mean, now you're really putting a lot of onus on your backs to not only stay healthy but produce. So for me, I mean, I can even see a place in regular PPR leagues where you go 4 running backs. Just make sure you have the flex locked up because with all those guys 8th round or later, and other guys are going to fall too if you have stupid league mates, and every league has some of those. So,
yeah, right now there's 4 wide receivers being taken in the 1st round. Again, PPR 12 team. That's Kupp, Jefferson, Chase, and Adams. I think this is a year, if you get to pick your draft position, I would say you need to be in the first 5.
Yeah.
That would be Taylor, Eckler, McCaffrey, Henry, Najee Harris. And that because then that running back tier after that is super deep. Like, I don't think there's a ton of difference between Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, and say David Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, and those guys are taking a round and a half later than the first ones I named. So at that point, like, It could even be worth reaching on a Travis Kelce. You could reach on a Josh Allen, and it doesn't matter just because the wide receivers later.
So
Which
let's
is-
say
yeah.
first 2 rounds you go Jonathan Taylor, Travis Kelce. Are you happy with that?
I am. I'm very happy with that. I think because of that wide receiver depth, though, we're seeing a lot of these names rise really early. So now we're talking Travis Kelce's ADP is 15th overall. Andrews is 24th overall. Josh Allen's going 22 overall. Mahomes and Herbert are back-to-back at 32 and 33 overall. It just feels weird taking Mahomes and Herbert in the 3rd round.
Oh.
I'm not sure if I could justify doing it. But then you look at the names around them, like A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson. I'm not super confident about those players either. And we're in the 3rd round.
Right.
Like, my confidence level doesn't change at all until like the 12th round. Like, that's all one tier at that point. It's weird.
Right. Yeah. The 3rd round, don't feel comfortable taking a Mahomes or a Herbert, especially when, you can get a Lamar Jackson or a Joe Burrow or even a Tom Brady down 5th, 6th rounds. I don't know how much difference there is between a Herbert and a Burrow this year.
And everybody has questions. Like the running backs in that section, 3rd round is, it's not super late for top tier running backs, but still Fournette, Zeke, Montgomery, Dobbins, Gibson, Connor, Elijah Mitchell, Cam Akers, Josh Jacobs. All of those guys can be wide receiver or running back ones, but all of them have legitimate concerns about injuries or somebody taking snaps from them. ETN's right after that. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's right after that. They're all the same player. Miles Sanders is after that. Shoot me if I draft Miles Sanders for 80. I love him and I hate him so much.
It has been a ride since I traded Miles Sanders to you in Dynasty because I loved him too. I was super high on him. I was like, damn, I got nothing for him. And every week it seems I flip flop between I'm a god and that was the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I don't know how to project him. I have no idea. I don't know. He's behind like the best offensive line in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one on his team that's good enough to take carries from him, but everybody does. Everyone takes carries. Jalen Rieger is going to have a touchdown carry this year.
He has less rushing touchdowns than Dak Prescott, I think.
Well, he had 0 last year, so yeah. He had, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty positive that's the correct stat. I had the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
It's
pretty good, Zach. Pretty good.
And you could draft us in the 17th round.
Yeah.
I will, maybe to clear your mind from Miles Sanders, I guess kind of just to sum up the show a little bit. Is there one, sleeper that you guys are targeting over the other that we kind of talked about? Or is there, number one on your priority list? I think I can just throw mine in right away. What you guys think? The first name that comes to mind is Allen Lazard. I mean, if you're going to get double-digit touchdowns out of a guy going in the double-digit round, I think that's an incredible win.
Yeah. I've been finding myself always drafting, I think, Bateman, Watson right now, Cole Kmet, Alec Pierce, Goliday. Another running back I didn't bring up, by the way, Kenyon Drake. He's going in like the 14th round.
Mm-hmm.
If it looks anything like New England's offense, like he could be James White. He's another name that just makes everything complicated.
Always.
Yeah. Trevor, do you have someone you're targeting?
Not really. I mean, it's just kind of those wide receivers, like just in general, like we've talked about. Like you just run through 1, 2, 3 mock drafts and you see guys making sure, hey, I got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, first 4 rounds. It's, this isn't like we've talked about. This isn't a normal year. So just understand where people are slotted to be, because I'd much rather draft well for my position than fill out my team first. I always thought that was the dumbest strategy ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also wide receivers who I legitimately think could have fantasy value this year who aren't on teams yet. Obviously, Odell's hurt, so we don't know how many weeks we're going to get from him. Cole Beasley, wherever he signs, he's probably going to be a starter. Like if he went to the Packers, if he went to the Colts, if he went to a team like that, Cole Beasley would be that annoying
Patriots.
steady
Buccaneers.
Buccaneers. Fuck. Yeah.
Scotty Miller 2.0.
Does Brady have any white receivers? He always needs a couple. And
Scotty Miller, they're not there?
I thought he wasn't there anymore.
I
Maybe
don't
he
know.
is.
Cameron Brate, I mean, tight end, but
True. They need to balance it out. He would be a guy to go there. But Julio obviously was bad last year, but it wouldn't be a little bit surprising if he looked rejuvenated and better this year. So yeah, there's so many receivers. It's stupid. But yeah, let us know what other topics you want us to do leading up to the season. Otherwise, we'll come up with some stream topics that we'll probably start doing weekly here. So subscribe on Flurry Sports, follow on Twitch, or wherever you are watching this.
This is our first PSA is to especially if you're drafting early, don't draft a kicker. Draft position battles.
Yes. Yeah, for 100%. You can stream kickers every single week and have a top 3 kicker. It's really easy, actually. Maybe I should do something about that this year. Okay, Trevor, leave us on. You get the last word. Go. Motivational speech.
It's not going to be that. It's just that Flurry Sports hit 1,000 subscribers, so you owe the subscribers in a crab rangoon eating competition with Jake. So get on that.
Trust me, I mentioned it to him, and he was distraught. He's like, "That's so many."
I hate crab rangoons.
What?
You shut your mouth.
I know.
They're like the greatest things of all time.
I know. I'm in the minority there.
What's bad about it?
Don't taste good.
I feel like that was a pretty easy thing to guess why he
You got
did
me.
not like crab rangoons.
You got me. Okay, my bad. We'll leave on that note. Goodbye.